Can you hear me?
Yes.
So back in 2023, a hearing took place where our former city corporate counselor, Nick Cummings, went before Judge Nancy Maldonado in a federal court to end a 20-year decree between the residents of Evanston, the community, and Northwestern, so that Northwestern wouldn't have to have discussions with the residents about what they want to do. And you ran down to the federal court and you blocked it, and Judge Maldonado threw it out. I was listening in on the hearing, and she said she was very uncomfortable with what was presented to her. Very, very uncomfortable with it. My question is, could that happen again?
That's a great question. And that was terrible. That was in fact terrible, and I'm glad that you were listening. That was an attempt by our corporation counsel, and it's uncomfortable for me to say, but I also learned that the mayor was privy to this, to disenfranchise a committee that was established by the federal court so that Northwestern and the city could have a really good working relationship and work things out as opposed to going to court. That committee has certain territory that it oversees and discusses, and the attempt was to actually remove some of that domain, some of that purview of the committee. And it was very fortunate, and this was unbeknownst to me. I sit as the alderman who is the chair of that committee, and I had no idea that this had happened. It wasn't brought to council. It was shocking to find out, and the only way I found out was because residents in the 7th Ward had a FOIA, and they said, hey, Councilmember Kelly, were you aware that this was going on? That your city has gone to the federal court to say that they want to remove portions of your purview from your committee? I had no idea. Fortunately, I have a wonderful attorney on the committee, Attorney David Schoenfeld. We were able to intervene in the nick of time for the second hearing, and yes, effectively, the judge denied the motion to disenfranchise this committee to an extent. So that was very fortunate. I think if we have good leadership elected that really believes in transparency, that won't happen again.
Council Cummings before, I'm sorry, Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you very much. I'd like to take a brief moment to make a statement regarding the issue that appears on the front page of the Tribune today with regard to the NU City Committee. As the council member that presides over this court-established NU City Committee, I have to say I was stunned to learn this weekend from 7th Ward residents, not from our staff, not from our mayor, not from corporate counsel, but instead from residents who uncovered important information through FOIA that our corporation counsel and deputy city attorney had filed a motion on May 1st to modify a nearly 20-year-old consent decree. I feel we all need to know who directed our corporation counsel to file this motion. I've requested this information several times now from our city manager. The FOIA emails that were shared with me reveal that the city's corporation counsel, while agreeing in emails with myself and attorney David Schoenfeld, who served on this committee since its inception, that the questions that NU might have regarding the purview of this committee would be addressed at a subsequent NU City Committee's subsequent meeting on June 14th. At the same time, these emails revealed that we were being circumvented and that the Corporation Counsel was making arrangements with the NU attorney to file a motion to modify this long-standing consent decree. This was never shared with us. And by the way, nobody from NU showed up to that subsequent June 14th meeting, as was scheduled and previously agreed upon. Let's be very clear. This is NU's issue. It was NU, Northwestern University, at the April Northwestern City Committee meeting this year, not the 3 residents, not the city, who challenged the purview of this committee over the T1 parking lot zone that flanks Ryan Field along Ashland Avenue. Northwestern can file its own motion if it likes. The language in this consent decree is unambiguous, and it has been for nearly 20 years since it was enacted in 2004. Neither Northwestern University nor the city has had an issue with the language of the consent decree. Now, Northwestern is clearly interested in changing the decree to get this piece of property along Ashland Avenue removed from the consent decree and removed from discussions at the NU City Committee meetings because it's part of the Ryan Field proposal. No clarification or modification is needed in this decree. If Northwestern suddenly has questions about the wording of the consent decree, then Northwestern can file a motion. The committee has historically and intentionally, as described in the decree, discussed T1, T2, these are transitional zones, and U1 zones both inside and outside of the historic district. This decree was established in order to address issues between neighborhoods and Northwestern that may arise in these T1, T2, and U1 areas in order to avoid legal proceedings. Modifying the decree in the way that Northwestern wants it modifying by removing some neighborhoods that fall under the purview of this committee would disenfranchise and limit the city and its residents from collaborative discussions around land use and other matters as described in the 2004 decree. The motion that was submitted is an attempt to insert a limitation that is absent from the decree. In 2004, Northwestern had five attorneys negotiate this consent decree. If Northwestern needed other language, it certainly would have been added at that point. This motion that has been submitted benefits Northwestern and not the city. Filing this motion without informing the committee behind our backs undermines trust. I've asked the city manager to direct Corporation Counsel to withdraw this motion immediately. This entire matter was handled improperly and non-transparently. Thank you.
Chair, am I allowed to respond since I'm...
We're going to discuss this evening, as we all know. Let's have the discussion, and then if you want to do this dance at the next call to wars, we can do that. But I would ask that we allow, let's get all the information in front of us before we do the back and forth.
Where is David DiCarlo?
Good evening. My name is David. I'm a 7th Ward resident and president of the Most Livable City Association, which, as many of you know, is a community nonprofit opposed to the current plans for Ryan Field. Yesterday, we copied you all on our group's open letter in response to the university's latest plan to commercialize its athletic campus. In the letter, we argued that Evanstonians deserve an open and straightforward process, both from the university and from our public officials. I'd like to give just a couple examples where the process doesn't seem to be meeting the mark. One example is before you tonight. Item ED1 on the agenda requests your approval of funding for Chicago's North Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau. Since at least December, however, the Convention and Visitors Bureau and its executive director have been lobbying and campaigning in favor of Northwestern's Ryan Field proposal, which thousands of Evanstonians oppose. But why is an organization funded by our tax dollars allowed to lobby and campaign for something so many people in Evanston don't want? I urge you to vote no on this request for funding, or at least refer it back to the Economic Development Committee and to city staff to determine a way to restrict the group from lobbying on behalf of Northwestern. Another example is on the City of Evanston's calendar later this week. It's the NU City Committee meeting on Thursday. Recently, the city and NU joined together to ask a federal court to restrict residents' ability to voice their objections about Ryan Field and the current proposals during committee meetings. Why did the city do that? What explanation could there be for agreeing with Northwestern to make that kind of legal maneuver? It wasn't a mere request for clarification, by the way, as some have suggested. It was a legal motion filed by the city to modify a nearly 20-year-old federal decree. To begin to restore public trust, I urge a response to these questions tonight and an explanation for why no input was sought from the city's duly appointed representatives to the committee, from the city council, or from the public. And I want to close with one last example that may come before you in the near future, and that's Northwestern's actual applications for a zoning amendment and plan development of Ryan Field. You may not know that both our organization and many other community groups have submitted hundreds of pages of evidence to the Evanston Land Use Commission, which is set to meet on September 6th. Yet we continue to see in the papers and hear other reports about some members of this body hoping to cut a behind-the-scenes deal with Northwestern without hearing all the evidence. That circumvents the process. If you're willing to hear from our side, which doesn't have the resources of the university or the billionaire backers of this proposal, I believe you will find that the weight of the evidence is against the current proposals, and so I ask you to give us a fair hearing before you make up your mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much.